There's something different about the backroads of Texas. If you've ever driven them at night, you know what I mean. Miles of dirt. No lights, no houses, just the hum of your engine and that uneasy feeling that something out there is watching. This video is called 20 Terrifying Experiences from Isolated Texas Rest Stops. These are real accounts from people who've experienced horrifying things at lonely rest areas scattered across Texas. Places that seem safe during the day but turn into something else entirely once the sun goes down. From flickering restroom lights to voices that echo when no one's inside. These stories will make you think twice before pulling over in the middle of nowhere. You're watching Creepy Vibes, where every story is based on real events and every detail drags you a little deeper into the dark side of reality. Before we start, here's something crazy. Almost 90% of the people who watch these videos never subscribe. I'm trying to reach 6,000 subscribers this month, and you can help make that happen. So if you love true horror stories and want more of them every night, hit that subscribe button, turn off the lights, and get comfortable. Also, let me know in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it right now? Now let's pull over at those deserted Texas rest stops and see who never left. It was just after the halfway mark to Lubbock when I saw the sign for the rest stop. A faded blue rectangle that looked like it had been beaten by every kind of weather Texas could throw at it. The night air had that heavy, dry chill that comes after hours on the road, and I'd been staring at my headlights cutting through the darkness for so long that I couldn't tell if my eyes were open or just remembering light. I pulled in mostly because I needed to stretch and piss, maybe grab a soda from one of those machines that never work but always hum anyway. The parking lot was empty except for one old car sitting crooked in the back row, the kind that looked like it hadn't been driven since before I was born. Its taillights caught my beams for a second and glowed red like eyes before the engine died and silence took over again. The building itself wasn't much. A low brick box with a few busted lights and a metal door hanging slightly off balance. No vending machines, no staff. Just an old emergency phone mounted on a pole near the far end, glowing faintly under a flickering light. It was one of those weathered yellow units you only see in movies, with chipped paint and a faded sign that said, "For emergency use only." I remember thinking it was strange that it even had power, considering the rest of the place looked abandoned. The bathrooms were locked, graffiti all over the doors, and the only sound was the wind scraping sand across the concrete. I leaned against my car for a minute, listening to that emptiness. There's something different about silence on the highway. It isn't quiet, not really. It has a hum to it, like the world itself is vibrating under the surface, waiting for something to move. I don't know why, but I walked over to the emergency phone. Maybe I was curious. Maybe it was the way the light kept flickering above it, like it was trying to get my attention. When I lifted the receiver, I expected the dead static of a disconnected line. Instead, I heard a soft click and then a series of tones, like the phone was dialing on its own. I froze. It rang once, twice, and then someone answered. "Hello? Hello, please don't hang up," a voice said, trembling and rushed. It was a man, young, maybe mid-20s like me. He sounded terrified. "You're at the rest stop, right? You see my car?" I didn't know what to say. My eyes automatically flicked to the old sedan parked behind mine. The air felt heavier, tighter. "Yeah," I said cautiously. "I see it." "Who is this?" The voice on the line gasped with relief. "Thank God. Listen, please, you have to stay there. Don't leave yet." "Why?" I asked, but there was only silence on the other end, like he was struggling to breathe. "Hello?" Then the line went dead. I stared at the receiver for a second, unsure if I'd imagined it. I put it back on the hook, waited, then lifted it again. It dialed by itself again. The same sequence, the same click, the same ring. This time, when the voice came back, it was whispering. "They're outside," it said. "They look like people, but they're not. If you see them, don't open your door." That's when I noticed movement near the edge of the lot. A figure, maybe two, standing where the pavement met the field. I squinted into the dark. They were just silhouettes, perfectly still. For a second, I thought maybe it was a trick of the light or my tired eyes. But then one of them took a step forward, slow and deliberate, and the motion was wrong. Too smooth. Too quiet. I hung up the phone and turned back toward my car. My instinct screamed to leave, but my keys were still in the ignition, and I realized the lights from the other car were on now, glowing weakly through a cracked windshield. I hadn't seen them on before. I hesitated, then walked a few steps closer, enough to see inside. There was a jacket draped over the driver's seat and a cup of coffee in the holder, the kind you'd get from a gas station 30 miles back. Steam still curled from it faintly, even in the cold air, but the car was empty. Behind me, the emergency phone started ringing. The sound cut through the air like a knife, echoing off the concrete and the open road beyond. I turned, and it just kept ringing, shrill and mechanical. I didn't want to answer it, but something in me couldn't leave it screaming like that. When I picked it up, the voice was sobbing this time. They won't let me go. They keep replaying it. Every night it's the same. I thought someone would stop. Who are you? I asked, my voice shaking now. My name's Kyle, he said. I was driving to Lubbock. Same as you, I froze. My throat went dry. When? I asked. 2 years ago, he whispered. Don't get back in your car. Before I could respond, I heard something scraping against the gravel behind me. I turned, and there was someone standing between the two cars. For a second, I thought it was a man, but his shape seemed to bend at the edges like heat distortion. The light above the phone flickered, and I saw his face, or what was left of it. His skin looked melted, eyes hollow and gray like smoke was trapped behind them. I stumbled backward, dropping the receiver, which swung and clicked against the pole. The figure took a step toward me, and the lights of both cars flashed in unison, then went dark. My pulse was pounding so loud I could barely hear anything else. I lunged for my car door, yanked it open, and slammed myself inside. The engine coughed, refused to turn over. When I looked up, the figure was gone. The phone outside started ringing again. It kept ringing and ringing, each shrill tone cutting into the dark. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely get the key to turn. Finally, the engine roared to life, and I peeled out of that rest stop. Gravel sprang behind me. The phone was still ringing as I drove away, fading into the distance. About 20 miles later, I pulled into a gas station, shaking and pale. The clerk must have thought I was drunk. I asked if there was a rest stop about an hour back with an emergency phone. He looked at me like I'd said something stupid. Not anymore, he said. That one's been closed since that kid disappeared there a couple years back. They tore the whole thing down after. Ain't nothing out there now but flat land. I wanted to argue, but I couldn't. When I went back outside, I glanced at my car and saw something that froze me in place. The rear bumper was smeared with a black, oily residue, streaked across the metal like something had gripped it with burned hands. When I got back on the highway, I checked my mirrors compulsively, mile after mile, expecting to see headlights behind me that never appeared. But when I finally stopped in Lubbock and got out of the car, I noticed a faint smell hanging in the air, the same one I'd caught near that phone. Burnt rubber, charred flesh, and something else, faint and human, the sound of a ringing phone somewhere far behind me still echoing in my ears. The westbound stretch of Highway 20 outside Midland County was as empty as a graveyard at 3 a.m. My rig was the only thing moving, a steady growl in the flat dark, the headlights cutting through the dust that drifted low over the asphalt. I'd been hauling cattle for 16 hours straight, the kind of job that makes your bones ache and your eyelids feel like they're sandpapered. The cows in the trailer behind me were restless, their shifting weight causing the trailer lights to sway like a slow heartbeat. I knew the route like the back of my hand. This part of the highway had no open rest stops for at least another 40 miles. The old one near County Line Road had been shut down since last year, after some vandalism and a structure fire. Yet as I came around a long bend, I saw it, a glowing rest area sign flickering to life ahead. The kind of blue neon you don't mistake for anything else. I slowed down, squinting. I could have sworn that whole place had been gutted. But the sign looked new, humming faintly, the letters pulsing against the black sky like they were breathing. My first thought was fatigue. Highway illusions. You stare at the dark long enough and it starts to stare back. But then I saw the smaller sign underneath. Open. The O blinked irregularly like a heartbeat skipping. I decided I'd pull in for a minute. I told myself I'd just splash some water on my face, maybe grab a soda if any machine was still working. I needed to wake up before the next long stretch. The ramp leading down was cracked and uneven, and as my headlights swept across the lot, I saw that the main building was still there. Same concrete block structure, same rusted metal roof. But the lights inside were on. Every vending machine glowed behind the glass, humming in unison, the kind of dull electric sound that fills the air like static. I parked the rig near the curb, killed the engine, and the sudden silence felt like a punch to the ears. Only the faint sound of my cattle remained, a soft chorus of shifting hooves and low murmurs. When I stepped out, the air was wrong. It should have been cool, but it was heavy, humid, carrying a smell I couldn't place at first. Not the usual mix of oil, asphalt, and sagebrush that clings to most Texas rest stops. This was sweet and sour, metallic like copper in rainwater. Blood, I realized. The smell of blood, faint but unmistakable. I told myself maybe a deer had been hit nearby. Happens all the time out there. But it wasn't just blood. There was another note beneath it, musky and stale, like old hay left too long in the sun. I hesitated, then walked toward the main building. The glass doors slid open automatically, the motion sensor squeaking like it hadn't been used in years. The fluorescent lights inside buzzed overhead, some flickering slightly, giving the walls a pulsing rhythm. The vending area looked freshly cleaned. The floors gleamed. Snack machines were full, neat rows of chips and candy perfectly arranged. I dropped a coin into one and pressed a button. The hum changed pitch, but nothing came out. I leaned in, saw the power cord plugged into the wall, yet the outlet plate was cracked and hanging. It wasn't really connected to anything. I felt a twinge of unease crawl under my skin. The hum wasn't from the machines at all. It came from somewhere deeper, like there was a generator running beneath the floor. I walked toward the restrooms, but the smell was stronger there, thicker. The lights above that hallway flickered erratically, stuttering between white and yellow. I stopped halfway, listening. The cattle outside were quiet now, completely still. That silence was worse than any noise. I turned back toward the front, ready to leave, when I saw movement through the glass window. For a moment, I thought someone else had pulled in, a figure standing by my truck near the trailer door. I stepped closer, squinting through the reflection. The figure wasn't a person. It was hunched large but wrong in shape. I thought of the black silhouettes I'd seen sometimes at dawn, when cows moved behind foggy fences. Those vague forms that only became real when the light touched them. But this one didn't move right. It swayed side to side, slow and deliberate. Then it stopped. I blinked and it was gone. My pulse quickened. I opened the door and stepped back into the night air. The smell hit me again, stronger now, and the cows were restless once more, stamping and snorting. I went around to the back of the trailer, keeping my flashlight low. The beam cut across the gravel and caught movement inside the slats, shadows shifting. I put my hand on the latch and froze. There was a sound beneath the rumbling of hooves, something lower, thicker, breathing. Not from the animals. I stepped back, scanning the dark lot. That's when I noticed something odd about the pavement. There were circular stains near the drains, like rust, but fresher, darker. The drains themselves were new, metal grates that hadn't been there before, and the air above them shimmered slightly as if heat was rising, though the night was cool. The humming from the building seemed to sync with it, a deep, pulsing rhythm that I felt in my ribs more than heard. My flashlight flickered, dimmed, then died. The generator noise grew louder for a moment, then everything cut out. The vending lights went black. Even the rest area sign beyond the lot stopped glowing. Just darkness. The only sound was the wind moving dry grass and the uneasy shifting inside the trailer. I climbed back into the cab, turned the ignition, but the engine stuttered and coughed like the battery was drained. I tried again, nothing, the gauge lights were dead. That's when the ground beneath the truck gave a small, unmistakable tremor, as if something heavy had shifted underneath. I sat frozen, my hand still on the wheel. Then faintly I heard it again, the lowing of cattle. But it wasn't coming from behind me. It was coming from the ground. I got out slowly, heart pounding, and crouched near one of the drains. The sound was clear now, a deep, wet bellow echoing from below but warped like it was coming through water. Mixed in were other noises. The clatter of hooves, the scrape of metal, and something that sounded like a chain being dragged. I backed away, and the air that came up through the drain carried the smell of rot, hay, and decay. My instincts screamed to leave, but I couldn't. I had to know. The main building's door was still open, and from inside I saw a faint red glow now pulsing from beneath the floor grates near the restroom hallway.